South Africa's electoral management body, the IEC, is one of the most trusted amongst 36 countries recently surveyed by Afrobarometer, according to a report that was released on Tuesday. Sibusiso Nkomo is here to tell us more. Sibusiso, thank you very much for coming in this morning.
Thank you, Nick.
In the wake, I guess, of the municipal elections, a very interesting topic, although your data is slightly backdated. You can explain that to us in a bit. But despite the high ranking, I believe the IEC, trust in the IEC has declined since 2011. What are the reasons behind that you guys have uncovered?
Okay, so 2011, the IEC sat at about 65 to 68%, and now they're sitting at 58%. This is up to August 2015 when we did the survey. So part of what we think is the reason is that people actually want them to do a much better job. It's not that they're not doing a good job, they're very competent, and people, they've won prizes for the kind of work they do. But I think it's just not enough anymore. So higher expectations come in. And so at the moment, we just, from what we've looked at, we've noticed that some of the events that have happened over time have impacted the IEC. So recently also with the Constitutional Court cases, those type of things have an effect on how people perceive the organization to be working.
So external factors, you mentioned earlier off-air, issues around Nkandla, the South African economy also have a huge impact.
Yeah, no, they do. When the economy goes up, positive perceptions of what's going on in the country also go up. But at the same time, the IEC is so crucial. You'd remember the EFF saying that the IEC has to watch out against irregularities and those type of things. So people are watching. They watch media, they talk about these things, and if there's even a whiff of something wrong, civil society stands up, opposition parties stand up and say, hey, we don't like this. So part of it, I think, is that the IEC is actually suffering from its own, how shall I put it, own success. So the better you do your job, the more likely people are actually, we found with a lot of, analysis we've done, we've actually found that when services are better, people become more critical about the quality of service that you're offering. And it's less about whether you're offering the service or not anymore.
Okay. Now you guys interviewed 54,000 people across 36 African countries. Explain to us how you conduct these interviews. How you sort of select your interviewees and the kind of questions that are asked.
So basically we have a standard questionnaire that we ask across all 36 countries. So 95% of the questions are exactly the same. Then we've got another 5% that are actually country specific. So if there's any issue at the point in time when we do the survey that's quite big, we'll ask about it. But also it depends on the size of the country. So for instance, South Africa interviewed 2,400 people. That takes into account diversity of language, where people are located. So the survey the sample has to reflect the weight of the number of people where they live. So if 60% live in Gauteng, the sample has to be 60% in Gauteng.
So representative.
Yeah. So we'll take a supervisor, we'll take 4 enumerators, or what we call research assistants. And these are one-on-one interviews. So you get to a cross street and you decide, okay, one person goes up, another one goes down, etc. So you count a number of houses. You get to the first house, number 1, you must actually you must tell the people who you are, where you're from, and why are you there, and ask them if they're interested in participating in the survey. And then you'll get a list of all the adults in the house. What we keep in mind is that we have to have 50-50 gender split. So if the first person in the house, if there's 2 people, let's say one is male and one is female, we'll do a lottery again. So whoever's name comes up, we'll interview that person. But if that person has to tell us whether they want to do the interview. But the interview is private. So everybody else must leave the room or wherever, and you do a one-on-one interview. And it usually takes about 45 minutes to an hour to actually do the interview. And then after that, let's say we interviewed a woman in that house, the next interview must be a man. And then again, we'll count, but now we space out the houses. So we won't go to the next house. So let's say we space it out by 10 houses. What we found with surveys is that people who live next to each other tend to have similar views. So you want to give as random a chance to anybody else to give their views. So then it gives you, so it's a whole, it's a whole process, but so these surveys are nationally representative. So in any results that I give you will tell you the national picture about what's happening.
And only registered voters that are surveyed? I mean, there are, as we know, leading up to elections, a lot of citizens don't register because they don't feel that there's any point, their vote's not going to make a difference. And the IEC has also sort of become a lot stricter about proof of address and those kind of things.
No, we use the census data, so we'll pull out a sample, but it's anybody who's 18 and above at the time of the survey. So whether you're a registered voter or not, we don't exclude anybody. So it could be somebody who's never voted, for instance, who we've interviewed. But because of the randomness of how we choose people, it's to ensure that you get as wide a spectrum of the population as possible to then tell you what they think is going on.